Good morning, friends at the Congregational United Church of Christ. I'm Dave McDonald, and I guess I'm the new pastor here. It's a pleasure to begin to acquaint myself again with Whitewater and with the church here. I'm looking forward to being a part of the community and learning who we are and who we have been, and maybe even helping figure out what it is we're going to be as we go forward together. I'm appreciative of Pat and Dave and Lori for the work that they did in bringing me here to work with you all. I appreciate very much Renee's presence in the office as we spent most of the day Tuesday talking about what is the life of this church. She showed me around, met with the folks from Bethel House who happened to be coming into the building, and I've begun to learn all the nooks and crannies. Please don't offer me a quiz. I will get to them eventually, but I explored the upstairs, explored the basement, looked around in the kitchen, found doorways, and heard about some vandalism that took place in the building last year, and just generally got a lay of the land. I'm sitting in my office, which is looking pretty spiffy. I see there are a couple of more things that need to be finished in here before I fully move in and before Pastor Doug's materials are fully moved out, but it's a good thing. A little background about myself. I have been in the ministry since the summer of 1991. I began my master's in divinity at Eden Seminary in St. Louis in the fall of 1990. At that point, I had an 18-month-old daughter and a school teacher wife. Now, all of these years later, I have a 31-year-old daughter, a 28-year-old son, a 26-year-old daughter. The two girls are living in Seattle. Julia's the elder. She works for the Y as the supervisor for foster care parenting. Rachel works for REI under normal circumstances, but in this moment of economic uncertainty, she has been furloughed and is doing her standard hustle thing. She's begun to do online bar trivia, as young people do. Colin is an engineer. He is engaged to be married, but his wedding has been, I believe, postponed. It was scheduled for Labor Day weekend this fall, but I think they're going to hold off until time's a little bit less uneasy. Janet practices optometry in Janesville. She is the optometrist at Shopko Optical on near Highway 14 and has been there since 2002. And we live in DeForest. Her mom, the Reverend Meg Shepard, who is on the board of trustees or directors, whatever the term they use for Fairhaven, lives with us. We built the house with her planning to live with us that whole time, so she has her own apartment, which unfortunately got flooded a week ago Thursday when we had some very abrupt and very heavy and very fast rains, which led to the pump failing. So we've got some mayhem in the building. I live at the moment, I'm staying at my mother's house. My mother is 88 and is affected by dementia, and we are trying to determine as a family what our best outcomes will be for her and where. But she has lived in DeForest for 13 years in a house 4 blocks from mine. So I go back and forth between the two houses at the moment, but I'm spending the nights at my mom's place. I'm originally from the Chicago suburbs. I grew up in Buffalo Grove, graduated from Buffalo Grove High School in 1982, took a bachelor's degree at Beloit College in 1986. That's where I met my wife Janet on a blind date, set up by our respective roommates. You could say that was a success. We will celebrate our 34th wedding anniversary this coming New Year's Eve. We have lived in a number of places. We've lived together in Illinois and New Jersey and Missouri and Indiana and Illinois and Wisconsin. And so we've moved around a bit. My mother-in-law is United Church of Christ clergy retired. My father was a house painter and worked for a contractor in the suburbs. I have 4 older siblings, all of whom still live in the Chicago metro area. And they're kind of excited that I will be a little bit closer. I didn't realize 150 miles was so terribly far in this day and age, but that is what it is. The work that we have to do together as the people of God and as the followers of Jesus Christ is important work. And given the discomfort and dis-ease as well as disease that are present and prevalent in life these days, and the separations that are required of us in order to keep safe, we're entering into ministry at a weird time, frankly. I've been away from the parish on a full-time basis since the beginning of 2019. As you may have read in my materials, I worked for a year for Ancestry. I'm an ardent professional genealogist, and we'll be happy to talk with you about that on some time if you have a question. I found that corporate life, however, was not suited to my temperament. So after a year and a day, to save my pension contributions, I left the firm and returned to the pulpit. I am most recently from having served at Zion Church in Milwaukee, a church of the Reformed heritage that has served Milwaukee for 137 years, that was sadly compelled to close its ministries down. I'm looking forward to being here. I've heard good things about the church here in Whitewater. I have known of all of the people who have pulpited here, up to and including Kendall Nordstrom. I know him as a colleague and overlaps in Beloit. His daughter is an alumna, and our son is also an alumnus of Beloit College. He and his fiancee met there as well. I knew Christine Stack. I knew Phil. I know Craig, who was here for a time, is actually my successor at Windsor, was just recently elected there. The more recent folks, Luke and Delisa, are all people I have known from involvements in the wider church. But more importantly, I know that you have been faithful people who have represented the congregational tradition in this community for almost 180 years. And I value that. The fact that this is a territorial church is something I hope of which you take great pride. Not a whole lot of people probably recognize or understand what that might mean, but we'll teach them. This is also the 400th anniversary of the Pilgrim's Landing, and good Congregationalists are the descendants of the Pilgrim forebears. We may be talking about what to do about that, depending on what we're doing in the fall. But as we move forward, we're going to look at what we are, who we are, what we've been, where we've been, what we need to do, what's possible for us to do going forward, what sorts of changes we're going to have to look at and evaluate of our work together, and maybe even come to understand that some things that we have done we won't be doing, but things we've never tried we will be doing. I hope that you are excited to have somebody whose intent is to be here for a while. As Pat noted, I am the designated interim pastor. Pending all things going well here, we will see how it goes. We'll begin conversations in a year as to whether or not that will be extended on a more standard traditional call basis, or whether it is more traditional interim basis. We'll know that after we get to know each other well. In the meantime, I'm planning, weather permitting, to take up residence on the east lawn. I'm looking out the window of the pastor's study, and I have posted a photograph of the church taken from the Church Street side, the old street address, because I see green over there. And in these days of social distancing, a couple of lawn chairs would not go amiss on that green space. And if they're suitably far apart, we might even engage in conversations. So next Thursday, which would be the 11th of June, Thursday after this broadcast, I'm going to start parking on the lawn, if the weather's good, from 1 until 3 o'clock. And I will have lots of SPF 9000 sunscreen, because if I go out for more than 4 minutes, I will match my shirt. I will probably be wearing a stupid hat. I'm big on ball caps. But I will be sitting there on the Church Street side, so that if you want to come by, and given their distancing issues, if you drive by, if you walk by, whatever, if you park on the street, roll the window down and holler at the fat boy with a beard sitting over there, I will be glad to holler back at you. I've been known to holler incessantly, and it would be nice to have someone to holler at. So I do hope that you will consider joining in that extravaganza. You might even walk down Church Street. Heaven forfend we actually walk these days. In any event, I hope that you are ready for me. Let me rephrase that. Nobody's ready for me. I hope we have some fun. That's important to me. I firmly believe that God intends for us to live our lives with joy, and that it is possible for the church to be a place where joy actually happens. And with that, I tend to acknowledge that I take my work seriously, but I don't take myself too seriously. I hope that makes sense. In the meantime, I will be leading worship next weekend. We start off in that way. And for friends and relatives and strangers from out of Whitewater who are watching this because you know that I'm here, we're glad you're here. We hope you're here every week. And we hope you send us a check because, by golly, I'm worth it. Have a great week.